So in retail, it's always been that location has been most important. And of course, retail location is still essential. But growing in importance is data. What do you know about the customer? What do you know about the context? What do you know about where they are? In fact, I was speaking last week with Lonnie Stark of Adobe Systems. She had just given a presentation on trends in multi-channel marketing. And she was saying that a business's location will matter less. Customers' location will matter more. So basically, the more you know about your customers, where they are, and how you can reach them where they prefer for you to reach them, will help you improve your marketing results. It doesn't really matter to Coach if I go into the store to buy that bag, buy it online, click through a display ad. They just want to make the sale. Now, savvy marketers get this. They understand customers' expectations. They're increasing. We all know this. So what does that mean? That means you need to be more relevant to stand out and capture your customers' attention. And in fact, according to Accenture Interactive, 65% of marketers say that customer expectations for not only relevant offers, but relevant interactions have the greatest long-term impact on their marketing strategy these days. And that's followed up by 40% are increasing their spending on web analytics, and another 39% are increasing their spending on marketing analytics. So it just goes to show you that, yes, it's really important to understand your customers, where they are, what they're doing, and then be able to take that information and translate it. So then the question becomes, okay, well, how can we do that? And so I'm going to give 3 case study examples of companies that we've written about at Direct Marketing News. And actually, I think that eTail provides the slides, but if you want these slides, what I did was on every story, including the Coach one, if you just want to chuckle, I put a bit.ly link to the full story. So if you want to read more about any of the case studies that I'm talking about, or the Accenture study, all those links are in the presentation. So Office Shoes is the first case study, and they're a UK-based shoe retailer, no surprise there. And they know one of their core customer groups was or is millennial women, so girls 18 to 25. And that's great, they're reaching them, but they said, we sell kids' shoes, we sell men's shoes. Sending one email message or one marketing message out to all of our customers, it's not really making an impact. We need to speak to our customers differently, and we want to use data from across our touch points to be able to do that. So they started with the basic, something that you're probably all already using, RFM analysis. So they said, okay, who's spending what, how often? And through that, they're able to take a segment of their high-value customers, the customers who are spending the most frequently, pull them aside. Then they looked at email, website data, their retail, transactional data, and they said, okay, now we can segment based on that information, not only on men and women, but also on, we have parents, we have students, we have parents who love to take their kids to festivals, and so maybe now we can reach out to them around festival time with email messages about sneakers or what have you, and really get more targeted with what they're doing by using this data from across the various channels. So in execution, they said, all right, well, we're all about testing, so let's start with some trial messages, some basic segmentation, male, female, parents, students, like I was saying, but then they also looked at their inactives. And for them, an inactive is someone who has opened an email but hasn't clicked through, not at all, but within a specific amount of time. So they've set a time frame. You may click later, but inactive is if you haven't clicked in that initial time frame. So tracking that information, email data and store data, they saw that some of these inactives, they liked the promotions, but they preferred to use them in-store, not online. So they said, all right, well, let's run a test. So they sent out an email with online exclusive in the subject line, and not surprisingly, fairly low response rate, really nothing happening. So a couple of weeks go by, and they say, all right, now let's drop in a headline based on what we've learned about our customers, see if we're right. And they use in-store exclusive in the subject line, and open rates skyrocket, not surprisingly, and then sales follow. Overall, due to all of the segmentation they're doing now based on all of the cross-channel data that they have, they've got a 64% increase in open rates and 240% increase in click-through targeted emails versus non-targeted based on the multi-channel data that they're using. So that's the first one. Next is Johnny Cupcakes. Now, you may think that it's one of the trendy cupcake stores, but it's not. It's a graphic apparel company. And the CEO thought that he knew who his customers were. To him, his customers were Johnny Cupcakes enthusiasts. If they're going to buy a graphic tee, they're going to go there first. And collectors of graphic tees. So that was who he thought were his two customer groups. And he said, I feel stymied. There's got to be a growth opportunity beyond those two customer groups. How can I figure this out? So he looked into some technology and implemented a couple of tools that would help him get a little bit deeper. Did some studying of his email data, transactional data, and then also social data, and found that, first of all, was able to find out exactly who his diehard collectors were, but then also find a couple of other really important segments. First of all, casual customers who they purchase every now and again, but when they do purchase, they share it socially. And then also special interest customers, so people who like sports themes t-shirts or characters like Hello Kitty. And he said, okay, now we've got some great segments we can go after. And they also then use that information to do lookalike modeling, so they could go back out across channels via email, via social, to try and attract customers, new customers that look like their existing best customers. Not only the highest value ones, but the ones with the most potential, like these casual customers that are shares. Additionally, they then went into social and they started tracking what people were talking about, what were the hot topics, and then using that to inform not only their marketing, but also new products. So, hey, if someone's talking about this character or this sports team, should we add that as a t-shirt? What should we be adding? And then how do we go reach back out across the appropriate channels to the right customers to get some buzz around those? Again, like I said, they're tracking all that cross-channel data, and they're using it to predict purchase propensity by segment based on what they've learned from the customer activity in transactional data, email data, and social data. So how this turned out for them, in a recent campaign that they did called Midnight Snack, they were launching a new line of t-shirts, and they said, all right, well, we're not going to send just one message to everyone about this new line of t-shirts. They did some analysis, and they sent specific messages to each of those different customer groups based on what they'd be most likely to buy. And as a result, they got a 141% increase in sales and a 42% lift in click-through rates. So really great results by paying attention to what their customers, who their customers are, and what they would react to from across channels. Third case study is half-price books. And half-price books, of course, being a bookstore, Amazon is going to be one of your main competitors. So you have to be different. And you have to go about things differently. Amazon, as you know, great with customer data. So if you're going to use data as well, how can you use it in a way that's going to make you stand out? So the way half-price books went about it was to take their postal data and their email database and combine them. Now, for some people, that may not seem like a big deal, but for them, they had it in that information in two different places. They had 700,000 email addresses and 350,000 postal addresses. And they wanted to see, how does this overlay? Who do we have in common, and how can we use that information to do some basic things like geo-targeting? So they started and then they wanted to weave social media into the marketing mix as well and see how that would play out. So they started with some basic A/B testing, which is always good, core business practice for direct marketing. And they said, okay, well, option one, for example, do we do 20% off, or do we do $5 off $25 purchase? All right, well, let's see, the 20% off makes more sense based on the response. Now let's go back out and do some promotions based on the different targets. And things like, they're not going to email you if you live in Alabama and there's a store event in Texas. And now they can actually do that kind of geo-targeting because they have this multi-channel data pulled together in one place. They started connecting Facebook with email and then trying to drive engagement back to the store and doing that successfully. And so, like I said, they're improving their campaign relevancy by combining these various data points. So in one recent example, they did a email campaign driving people to Facebook for a 20% off deal. And all the sharing that happened, they were basically able to use that data to track back, Facebook data, email data, and store data to track back and see that they got 36,000 new email subscribers and 14,000 new customers to its brick and mortar outlets. So again, some really great response by using that multi-channel data. One of the things that I like to say about using customer data is that think about it like Dory from Finding Nemo, right? So think about Dory. She swims around. She's having a great time, but she never remembers anything. So every time she meets you, she's meeting you for the first time. And as excited as she is, when you're the person she's meeting, you're kind of like, yeah, oh, okay, nice to meet you, Dory. Now turn that around and think of yourself as a customer. All things being equal, you're more likely to purchase from the company that's using information that you're giving them, whether it's that you've told them implicitly or explicitly, to give you a more relevant experience. And think about it. Don Peppers and Martha Rogers of One-to-One, they wrote the book One-to-One Future. They call it a learning relationship. So basically, you take the information that you learn about your customers and you apply it. You share it throughout the organization. You use that information, and then you share back with your customers how you've used it. And that may be directly or indirectly. But what you do is you show your customers that they're actually more to you than just a wallet. We started out with the Coach story, and some people may find that creepy, but because I like Coach, I find it kind of cool that they're trying to engage with me. Maybe it's a little over the top. It's like everywhere I go, there's Coach. But they see that I'm reacting, so they're going to encourage that further. So it's really important to take what you know about your customers and then use that information in a way that is clear to them, because that's going to help build that engagement. So I actually am done. It took a lot longer when I rehearsed it. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was talking that fast. But, what are you all doing? Since we've got some time, what are you all doing as far as multi-channel? Who's using data from multiple channels and actually pulling it together? In the back. So what are you doing specifically?
Well, we're not. Thank you. Hi, Lisa Gillespie with Stanley Black & Decker. We are not quite there in a strategic way yet because we don't have the proper systems, right? So we're kind of doing it using our email system and segmenting that way, which is why during another session they mentioned that the email teams are usually the ones who know the most about CRM and segmentation, right? But we know that we just need to get a formula or a strategy around how to do that best, how to make sure all the data is in the right place and we can get at it in the right way. So what would you suggest there?
Well, it seems that email is actually at the core of a lot of these multi-channel marketing campaigns and efforts. And so I think if you look at some of the examples that I just gave, what they're doing is they're kind of starting small. So even if they don't have the data in one place, like half-price books eventually wanted to move their data in one place, they either find tools that can bring the data together just for the analysis. There's a lot of tools that do that now. Or they start small with a little bit of data from somewhere. Maybe it's just actually someone going and following what people are saying on the Facebook page and actually coming in and saying, all of our people are talking about, say it's Johnny Cupcakes. A lot of our enthusiasts are talking about Spider-Man right now because a new movie's coming out. We should really do a promotion around that. So sometimes I think it comes back to the sneaker network, and sometimes it's finding, there's a lot of cloud-based solutions right now that are looking at bringing data together from multiple sources. Actually, there's a few on the floor out here that I know do have that capability. But like I said, I think if you start with some basic focus on email, because that's probably your core, and then do some pilots of bringing in a little bit of data from somewhere else and roll out from that way. Because when you get I know you've heard it before, but it's like when you get the quick wins, you're able to go out from there, because then people get excited about the results. You show some progress, and then upper management is more willing to make some investment to do the bigger integrations and bringing more of the data into one place. Any other questions while we're in question mode?
Hi. Do you find that most of these companies used an external CRM type system to pull all this together, or were they using maybe their email marketing platform as the, database of choice for all of that?
It was a mix. One company uses Exact Target. One uses TrueLens. One used Salesforce.com, I think, with something else, or I might be mixing up my stories, but yeah, they all used external tools to help them with hosting the data, tracking the data. Any other questions I can answer for you? Is anyone using social right now data to help inform their marketing? No one yet? That's actually kind of an interesting, two of the three companies were doing that, tracking the social aspect and saying like, oh, there's a lot of conversations about this. Let's take action on that. And actually, we've written also about Lion Yarn. They do this yarn for knitting and crocheting. And they are very big on using Facebook to gather information that they then use they do a lot of content marketing, so videos and such. So they see what the chatter is about, and that will help them decide what kind of topics to use for videos, what to do in their marketing communications. And what they found also by tracking the conversations in Facebook, but also responses to their email campaigns, is that, not surprisingly, especially if you knit or crochet, these are two very different segments who respond completely differently to messaging. And so they've taken that cross-channel information and used it to speak really relevantly and directly to, and differently to those two subsets of their customers, because they don't cross over really. So, any other questions I can answer for you? Yeah, in the back again.
Are there any resources that you would suggest to help us to really learn how to do this well, or even start? I always have a crawl, walk, run philosophy, right? So, what resources do you think? Because we've heard about CRM and eCRM for quite some time, but putting it in play is sometimes a different thing.
So what resources can help you get this going? Well, I think definitely, coming to a conference like this and seeing what companies are doing, go to sessions that have the best practices, the companies that have done this, and try and talk to them. Talk to the vendors. I mean, a lot of them, maybe you're not ready to buy yet, but to see, sometimes they can give you great information on how to prepare for when you are ready to buy. I mean, if you think about content marketing, a lot of what companies are doing, especially vendors in the marketing space, because they're probably some of the best at it, is they're providing information to educate you so that when you are ready to make a purchase, you have a lot of information out there. So I would also check online, at sites like ours, but also some of what, if you check around and see some of the vendors here that do kind of cross-channel data, then you can go up to their websites and check out their blogs, because they're going to provide a lot of, hopefully not, for the most part, the blogs aren't salesy. Some of them are, but for the most part, a lot of them are pretty informational, and they try and talk about customer successes. They try and give a lot of tips on best practices. Just for example, this isn't exactly what you're looking for, but like Marketo does a whole series of definitive guides on different aspects of marketing, and really thick stuff, where you can, meaty, but kind of light reading, And I know HubSpot, for example, does a lot. Again, this is not exactly what you're looking for, but just an example. HubSpot does a lot on inbound marketing. You want to know about inbound marketing, you read their blog. Animetrics, I know they do a lot of multi-channel data. They're actually here. They have a blog. They do a lot of Q&As with experts in various disciplines to get their take, and so you can learn from that as well. I think that's, when we've talked to our readers about what they want to learn from us, a lot of it is case studies, because when you see how other people have succeeded, it gives you, maybe you don't do the exact same thing, but it gives you an idea of how you can take what they've learned and apply it to you, and how you can best use that information and do things, tweak it a little bit to your business. So I hope that helped. So if any other questions? Well, thanks everyone for joining me this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I know there's a lot of really meaty stuff coming up.